I'm Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson. As the year winds down, we wanted to take this opportunity to bring you a look at some of the best of Science and You from 2012. Science and You starts now.
I'm Donna Hanover. If you're a wounded veteran, a disabled child, a person that's been traumatized in a crime or an accident, there may be help to be had not just in a hospital or a pharmacy, but from our friends in the animal kingdom. Right, Russell? That's ahead on Science and You.
Hi, I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. Ever wonder what happens to all our garbage in New York City? Well, 80% of it ends up in landfills. Some of it's recycled and some reused. Well, coming up on Science and You, I'm going to introduce you to a group of musicians who are turning all our garbage into music.
I'm Mike Gilliam. Nothing says summer fun like a day at Yankee Stadium or any ballpark. But if you can't come to the game, maybe the game can come to you through science and technology. I'll show you exactly what I mean in just a minute on Science and You.
I am Marlene Peralta, and no, I'm not in Hudson Valley. I'm actually at the oldest working farm in New York City. And to the surprise of many, this is not the only working farm in the 5 boroughs. That's ahead on Science and You.
Hi, I'm Tina Beth Pina. Is 70 the new 50? The science behind why we're living longer. That's ahead on Science and You.
I'm Donna Hanover. Doctors and nurses, physical therapists, and medical equipment engineers all marshal their scientific efforts to try to help people who are facing disabilities and injuries. Sometimes they find their best results. The most effective way to help people back to health and independence is with a smart assistant from the animal world. Right, guys? Students from the Children's Village campus in Dobbs Ferry, New York, take on a very important learning assignment. They regularly groom and help train dogs like these, preparing these remarkable animals for a life of service to human partners with special needs. This is the headquarters of Educated Canines Assisting with Disabilities, or ECAD for short.
The dogs learn basic obedience training, like just heeling, sitting, laying down, being patient. By teaching a dog to be patient, you have to learn to be patient yourself.
Dale Picard, along with his wife Lou, founded ECAD in 1995, and they have placed specialized service dogs in more than a dozen states. Dale, what is it about a dog's nature that makes it such a great companion for somebody that's disabled?
The dogs become a great companion for somebody that's disabled because they're in tune with a person's emotions. So it doesn't matter what is happening on the inside of yourself, whether you can read it or not, the dog knows how to read it.
And we now know that these dogs can do a lot more than just read emotions. Their intuitive sense can actually save lives. And how about people with diabetes?
We promote our dogs to lick the person's hand. So we have several dogs out there alerting their clients to low blood sugars.
The dog licks.
Just licks their hand.
To see if anything is wrong?
No, the body chemistry has changed, so the dog will lick excessively until you get yourself back on track.
And who is this?
Rosie is my personal dog. She was born in my hands.
Rosie received national attention recently when she was allowed into a courtroom to calm a young rape victim who was afraid of facing her alleged assailant.
Rosie took away all the stress. Rosie got up and nudged her and comforted her, absorbing all the stress that was coming out of the child by leaning into her.
Once placed in a permanent home, these animals act as part service dog, turning lights on and off, retrieving dropped items, even helping out around the kitchen. As therapy animals, they can calm autistic children or wake their masters from recurring nightmares. Watch how Russell responds to Dale's troubled sleep. For some, a service dog helps soothe post-traumatic stress and simply makes life bearable once again. Phil Bauer is a combat vet who lost a leg in 2003 when his helicopter was shot down in Iraq.
My feet were trapped underneath the roof housing. The rear end where I was trapped kind of went up in an explosion and fire.
Phil's life back home was a mess until Reese answered a call to duty himself and now serves as Phil's therapy service dog and full-time companion.
Show belly.
And what does Reese do for you?
Reese does anything from reminding me to take my meds in the morning to being able to turn the lights on and off for me if I'm in bed and I don't have my leg on. Just being there and actually allowing me to almost go into public. Reese is really great at being able to understand and pick up on my moods even before I even understand it.
Phil says that working with these kids gives dogs a baseline on understanding what they'll need to do to calm the anxieties of their human clients. Avril Lindsay Dennis is Director of Mental Health Programs at Children's Village and works closely with young people and the dogs of ECAD. Has there been science to prove that therapy animals really do the job?
Absolutely. It's been an incredibly difficult field to track scientifically, and it's been a challenge that those of us in the field have really been looking at over the last 10 years. We've done a variety of things, including partnering with outside agencies like the Humane Society and SPCAs in looking at the human-animal bond and interactions. Most hospitals have therapy programs at this point. People want to get involved.
It's because there's been scientific proof that it works that these organizations are saying we want it.
Right. Right. It's no longer sort of going in and having to convince people that this works.
It does work because at the core of the human-animal bond, there is love. And love is one of the strongest bonds we can share.
Honestly, I can't answer where my life would be without him.
Sometimes therapy animals provide temporary assistance, and sometimes it's a lifelong bond. In any case, the science of training animals to help people and scientifically measuring how valuable they really are has advanced tremendously. I'm Donna Hanover for Science and You.
Hi, I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We're at PS 102 in Brooklyn, where the students here are learning the 3 R's. I'm talking reduce, reuse, recycle. Hey, I think I hear the music starting. Let's go on in. This isn't your typical concert. Take a closer look at the instruments. Hubcaps, old pipes, giant cardboard tubes, old refrigerator drawers. This is Bash the Trash, a group of wandering minstrels, if you will, whose message is quite simple: raising environmental awareness while making connections to science and music.
It's really the reusing message that we're really trying to get across to kids, and kind of one of our unspoken mottos in Bash the Trash is we see the world not as it is, but as what it could be. And so it goes all the way down to little pieces of trash. Something that you're about to throw away is, could this be something else instead of just throwing it away? What you gonna do with all that trash? I'm gonna bash the trash.
Today, Hetherington and his crew are performing at PS 102 in Brooklyn, where the kids enjoying watching the performers turn trash into a symphony of sound. Who knew that styrofoam packaging could sound like that? A clever invention from the mind of Rowan Kameni.
This is what we call the Styrolin. This is actually my, contribution to Bash the Trash. I invented it, you could say. There wasn't a Styrolin in the group until I decided to make use of this styrofoam box. And so it's literally found objects, and most of these things are things that arrived in my mailbox. I've got a piece of old jeans fabric for the chin rest, a chunk of wood for the bridge, and this is actually a real violin string.
Let's hear you play. So obviously you're also a trained violinist, right?
Yes. Yeah, I grew up playing violin and then switched to drums, and now I play both, you could say.
Now you play garbage.
I play garbage, exactly.
Kameni and his crew are all trained jazz musicians. As musicians, they understand the science behind the sounds. For instance, what happens when you hit an old pipe like this? Sounds a little dull, but add styrofoam, yes, another use for styrofoam, and you get this.
How's that sound?
The kids also learned how water can change the properties of sound.
Is the sound changing? It is. Is it getting higher?
It's literally science, music, and recycling in a bottle.
Especially when we work with the older kids, we can get more into the science element and talk more details about the science of the sound and about recycling.
And the kids seem to be getting the message.
I learned that you don't have to just throw the trash away. You could really just use it for things. Even if you think that an old milk jug or a cereal box, you could just like throw them away and use them once, you can use them twice, 3 times, or even 4 times by reusing them and cutting them up to make all sorts of like entertaining things like instruments, like Bash the Trash.
What are some of the things that you reuse?
Well, sometimes out of a cardboard box, I use some glitter and I pretend it's a race car, and I put my cat inside of it and I pretend he's my little assistant.
Add a little imagination and trash can go a long way before ending up in the landfill.
Reduce, reuse, recycle!
So next time you think about throwing one of these plastic bottles away, you may want to think twice. Hey, you never know, one of these may one day help you win a Grammy. I'm Myrna Baldemillo for Science and You.
I'm Mike Gilliam for Science and You. iPads, smartphones, and computers. A lot of people use them for social networking, but more and more baseball fans are using them to get highlights from places like Yankee Stadium. Now, they originate here, but they go through a nerve center down in Chelsea. It's called MLB.com. Let's go inside and take a look. The highlights may originate in the ballparks, but every single one of them, in fact, every single pitch, ends up here at MLB.com, routed through a master control room that looks like something from NASA.
It starts with the pitch. Everything is triggered off the event, and we're trying to tell the story of what happens on the field. So as each pitch is thrown, the PitchFX cameras record the pitch in real time, calculate the trajectory, the velocity, the location of the pitch, and so forth.
The science and technology boggles the mind. As many as 9 people work to make sure every piece of information from every single ballpark gets into the database. During baseball season, MLB.com creates an astounding 22,000 video files a day. Roger Williams is Vice President of Media Operations.
This is the Transmission Operations Center here at MLBAM. And in this room, we essentially capture all the inbound feeds and manage all the traffic that goes out and distributes to the world. So this is pretty much the nerve center of all of our media acquisition for our entire company. And for pretty much on a yearly basis, there's about 18,000 live events that we capture a year, which is more than pretty much anybody else in the digital space.
Would this have been possible 20 years ago?
No, it would not. You certainly would have the master control facility of the means of acquiring feeds, but the means to distribute from this kind of scale was unthinkable.
And they've been streaming on this scale for 10 years. The company has grown so that it is now considered one of the largest IT startups in the world. It is highly reliant on software and automation, and nothing is outsourced.
Our system is built to scale, so whether it's 1 game or 15 games on a busy Friday night, we use the same technology in every ballpark for every pitch and every event. So basically, it's just repeating the same process over and over and over, and then just a really big database to store everything when the game is over.
How big?
Oh, wow, millions of rows. I'd have to get out a calculator to figure it out.
MLB.com offers a number of different features to enhance the fan experience, including Scout, that crunches statistics to determine if a pitcher has lost his effectiveness, and PitchFX, which analyzes pitches to see what is really happening to the baseball on the way to the plate.
We have 40 images for each pitch. Multiply that by almost 300 pitches per game, 700,000 pitches per season. So it adds up to a massive amount of data, but that's what enables us to earn a much greater understanding of what happens with each pitch.
So what does the future hold for MLB.com?
In addition to being able to track the pitch, which we do now, we'll be able to track every moving object on the field, all 9 fielders in real time, all the base runners, including the batter, the ball itself as it's hit into play, even the umpires, and try and understand how these things relate to each other.
All said and done, you're going to have multiple devices, whether it's your flat screen at home, whether it's your computer, whether it's your iPad, Android, what have you. I think it's all going to be fairly conjoined to where it's going to be a similar portable experience, but at the same time, it can be a simultaneous experience.
Ultimately, it all boils down to what the players do on the field. We're just trying to record more information about that so we can understand the game a little bit better.
So, in the future, look for science to continue to contribute to sports and entertainment in ways that we can't even imagine. I'm Mike Gilliam for Science and You.
I am Marlene Peralta. Agriculture is no longer limited to just the suburbs. Here in the city, New Yorkers are taking over their backyards, empty lots, and even rooftops, just like this one in Brooklyn, to grow fresh produce.
We're at Eagle Street Rooftop Farm, which is a 6,000 square foot farm on top of a warehouse building in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and we grow all kinds of edible vegetables.
Started in 2009, it is the first commercial rooftop farm in the whole country.
They weren't planning on having vegetables necessarily. They were just going to plant sedum, which is the traditional thing that you put on the green roof. It's easy to grow. And then Annie Novak, who's the founder of this farm, kind of came to them, and it was perfect timing, and they decided to try having a farm up here.
In the first year, there was a lot of experimentation, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Last year we had corn. The corn was this big. So it's just sort of been a continuous process of figuring out what works best on a roof. Now we've sort of focused a lot on peppers and tomatoes, like nightshade vegetables that do well in hot, sunny conditions.
Farming is not new to the city. Established in 1967, the last conventional working farm is in Queens.
The Queens County Farm Museum is a 47-acre farm. It is owned by the NYC Parks Department, but is managed by the Queens County Farm Museum. We have about 2 acres of diversified vegetables, so that means we grow everything, over 40 different crops, and even within those crops, like tomatoes, for instance, we'll grow over 9 different varieties. We also have livestock here.
The farm is also sustainably managed. Instead of herbicides to control weeds, the only tools they use are the farmers' hands.
The reason we don't want weeds is because they compete with our main crop, and these are tomatoes. So weeds will compete for water, light, space. Our tomatoes are spaced about 2 feet apart, so we want to give them a lot of air so they stay healthy and they have enough space to get big.
But lack of space isn't an excuse not to grow vegetables in highly populated neighborhoods like this one in East Harlem. Community gardens and empty lots have become the perfect place to farm.
Even if you don't have a big plot of dirt, you can do it in your housing, in your apartment, and it gets people to realize, I can grow something. This is exciting, I can do it. This is what basil looks like coming out of the ground, and it connects them to food, which is, it's a big gap that's kind of missing in this community. People don't understand what food is like when it's not in a box.
Gina Kitley is a professional chef. She brought her nonprofit program Nourishing USA to this community garden in East Harlem to educate locals about healthy eating alternatives.
We really grow a variety of things, but we stay also culturally sensitive. We understand that we're in an African-American Hispanic area, and so we grow things like greens or cilantro or things people can identify, and then add things that people haven't perhaps seen.
Experts say urban agriculture has become popular in New York City for a variety of reasons.
One is that there's a huge health crisis in New York City. In some school districts, more than half the kids in grade school are overweight or obese. There's a scourge of diabetes and other diet-related health problems around the city. And urban agriculture is one element in trying to solve that problem by enabling people to grow their own fruits and vegetables, and also connecting young people and other people in the community to the food system.
The city is also taking advantage of its environmental benefits.
When it rains, the rainwater runs down the pavement into the nearest sewer. And when it rains more than just a quarter of an inch, that extra water is overflown into the East River, the Hudson River, all the estuaries around New York City. And so slowing that rainwater down and allowing it to percolate into the ground is one strategy for preventing water pollution and avoiding having to build large-scale infrastructure to clean that extra stormwater. And community gardens kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They allow the rainwater to percolate into the gardens, and they enable people to grow food.
And if you thought vegetables were the only things you can find on farms around the city, think again.
We have a bunch of chickens. I think there are 7 chickens this year in a chicken run over there. We have 2 beehives on the lower roof, and we have bunny rabbits.
There is no doubt that urban microfarms are helping to establish a sustainable food system for all New Yorkers. An opportunity that not only improves our quality of life, but also helps the environment. For Science and You, I am Marlene Peralta.
Hi, I'm Tina Beth Pena. Can we control our life expectancy? Studies suggest that we are living longer and healthier lives, and advances in science and medicine may be a contributing factor.
On the one hand, one wants to maximize performance and productivity and quality of life at any age. And the other is that most people would like to live more years, and given that the quality was reasonable. And I think that clearly both are happening right now.
Recognized by the National Institute of Aging, neurologist Lawrence Honig is part of a team of researchers conducting studies on life expectancy and age-related diseases.
We found that people who have vascular risk factors, such as high blood pressure, high blood lipids. So these factors can all cause strokes, which then cause the brain to age more rapidly, if you will. Sometimes we then learn that if you have a particular variant, it may put you at a greater risk for one disease or another. So people who have what we call the E4 variant in either 1 or 2 copies have a greater risk for Alzheimer's disease over a certain portion of their lifespan. Increasingly, there are more and more gene variants being discovered that have more or less risk for different diseases.
Life expectancy in the U.S. has skyrocketed from under 50 in 1900 to almost 80 years old today, and many individuals wonder if there's anything they can do to control longevity.
It's everyone's fondest desire that they can influence their own destiny, and not that they would necessarily succeed, but they could at least try. That being said, some things that you're born with affect the way you are and the way you age. Equally, environmental factors are very important in aging. And there's no question that staying out in the sun all the time makes your skin age markedly more rapidly. And you'll take a look at 2 people, and one may have been out in the sun a lot more than the other, and you'll see the changes in their skin. Some people age more rapidly due to other environmental aspects, such as diet or injuries or other exposures beyond sun. So there's a variety of environmental factors and genetic factors that together lead to the aging process being different in each individual. Most of us believe that the advances in control over high blood pressure and heart disease and kidney disease are clearly life-prolonging. So there's no question that medical advances contribute, but also these lifestyle changes have made a big difference.
Genetics, as well as an active lifestyle, are part of the reason for the long and productive years of teacher and author Belle Kaufman, who is 101, and author and Holocaust survivor Ernst Michel, who is 89.
I know many people who are younger than I am, who are not the same shape I am, you know, and I feel sorry for them. And I try to encourage them. Look, I'm a job, I go to the office every day from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I do a lot of public speaking, and I enjoy doing it. I used to, when I speak extemporaneously, you know, I knew what I was going to say. I can't do that anymore. So now I have paper, you know, and I look at the paper, and either I read it or I look at it and know then what to say, you know. So you make adjustments in your ability to overcome, and I hope to continue as long as I can.
I knew a woman who was my age, who's no longer living, who used to call me when her husband died. I'm so bored. Most of my friends are gone. I have nothing to do. I'm so bored. How dare she be bored? She's alive. She can hear, she can see. How dare she be bored? It's so remarkable to live. I feel that passionately.
And while medical and scientific advances are helping us all to live longer, Dr. Honig says sometimes it's the simple things that may be easier to fix.
Boredom isn't good. Depression isn't good. I think we would all say that in general, most people staying active it makes them happier. Whether staying active truly wards off disease is less clear, although certainly staying active might prevent weight gain, for example, which is good. And staying mentally active, as we talked about earlier, leaves you in a better position regardless of whether you're destined to get a disease or not.
New York State has the 4th oldest life expectancy rate in the nation. And while chances of discovering a magic pill to ward off all the effects of aging are slim, scientists do believe that ongoing research will eventually lead to having a longer and healthier life. I'm Tina Beth Pina for Science and You.
That's our show for today. I'm Magali Laguerre Wilkinson. See you next time on Science and You.